The vanishing Commander Vex stood before the observation window of the Galactic Assembly Hall, staring at the holographic star map that floated in the center of the massive chamber. 3 red markers blinked ominously in the same sector of space, each one representing a fleet that had vanished without sending a single distress signal. The silence from those ships was more terrifying than any battle. Report could have been. The chamber behind him buzzed with anxious conversations. Representatives from 42 different species had gathered for this emergency session, and the air was thick with tension. Vex's scales shifted from their usual deep purple to a worried gray, a physiological response he could not control. As the supreme commander of the Krillian Empire's Exploration Division, he had seen many mysteries in his 30 years of service, but nothing like this. "Commander Vex, please present your findings," announced High Chancellor Mora, her voice echoing through the chamber. The conversation stopped immediately. Every eye in the room turned toward him. Vex activated his wrist device, and the holographic display expanded to show detailed information about each disappearance. 2 years ago, the science vessel Wanderer from the Talrix Confederation entered this solar system. He pointed to the 3rd planet from a yellow star. Their mission was simple: catalog the primitive species inhabiting the planet designated as Earth. The vessel carried a crew of 120 scientists. They crossed the orbit of the 8th planet and simply stopped transmitting. A delegate from the Talrix Confederation rose from her seat. "We assumed it was a technical malfunction. The Wanderer was an old ship." Vex nodded. That was the logical conclusion. However, 1 year later, the Heshon Corporate Guild sent a mining survey fleet of 8 ships to investigate the outer planets of the same system. They had state-of-the-art equipment and experienced crews totaling over 600 individuals. He paused, letting the weight of his next words settle. They also vanished. No distress calls. No debris fields detected by long-range scanners. Just silence. Murmurs of concern rippled through the chamber. Vex continued, 3 months ago, the Vrothian Defense Force sent a military expedition. 15 warships with over 3,000 soldiers and the most advanced weapons technology in the known galaxy. They were specifically ordered to investigate the disappearances and use any force necessary to ensure their safety. And, prompted High Chancellor Mora, though her expression suggested she already knew the answer. They are gone. All of them. The last transmission we received was from their fleet commander, reporting they were approaching the 7th planet. Then nothing. Vex manipulated the hologram to show a blue and green world. This is Earth. Our preliminary scans indicate a civilization that has barely left its home planet. They have primitive chemical rockets, basic satellites, and weapons that should not threaten even our oldest vessels. Their most powerful explosive devices are nuclear fission bombs, technology we abandoned 3,000 years ago. A reptilian delegate hissed in confusion. How can primitives destroy 3 separate fleets? This makes no sense. That is precisely what we must discover, Vex replied. The Assembly has authorized me to lead an investigation fleet. We will have 25 warships, the finest sensor equipment available, and enough firepower to reduce a small moon to dust. Whatever is happening in the Sol system, we will find the truth and we will return. The vote was unanimous. Everyone wanted answers. Everyone needed to understand what force could make entire fleets disappear as if they had never existed. Vex spent the next 3 weeks preparing. He selected crews based on experience and caution rather than aggression. He equipped every ship with redundant communication systems and emergency beacons. He planned multiple fallback positions and evacuation protocols. Nothing would be left to chance. When his fleet finally gathered at the designated coordinates on the edge of the Sol system, Vex felt confident they were ready for anything. The ships formed a tight defensive formation, sensors sweeping constantly for any sign of threat. They moved slowly, deliberately, giving themselves time to analyze every asteroid, every piece of space debris, every anomaly in the void. "Commander, we are detecting scattered remains," reported his sensor officer, a young Krillian named Tess. Multiple debris fields spread across the outer system. The material signatures matched the missing vessels. Vex leaned forward in his command chair. "Life signs?" "Negative, sir. The debris appears to have been drifting for months. Some pieces show damage from weapons fire, but the patterns are inconsistent. I cannot identify what type of weapon system caused this destruction." The fleet continued its cautious advance, passing the orbit of Neptune and then Uranus. Vex ordered constant scans of every moon, every asteroid, every possible hiding place. His tactical officer identified several small human outposts on the moons of Saturn and Jupiter, but they were clearly civilian facilities. Simple mining operations and research stations, they posed no military threat whatsoever. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the third planet," announced the communications officer. "Audio only. The format is extremely primitive." "Play it," Vex ordered. A human voice filled the bridge, speaking through translators that struggled with the unfamiliar language patterns. "Unknown vessels, this is Earth Defense Network. You are entering protected space. Turn back immediately. This is your only warning. Repeat, turn back now." Vex almost smiled. Earth Defense Network? These humans had no defense worth mentioning. Their largest ships were cargo haulers and mining vessels. "Prepare a response. Inform them we are a peaceful **. Every alarm on the bridge screamed at once. Red warning lights flooded the command center, and the tactical display lit up with dozens of new contacts appearing from nowhere. Vex felt his heart accelerate as he watched the screen. Small vessels were emerging from behind asteroids, from within the rings of Saturn, from positions that should have been impossible to reach undetected. "Report status," he commanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Contacts on all sides, Commander." They were already here, hiding in the debris fields and using planetary bodies for cover. Our sensors classified them as inactive objects or natural formations. Tess worked her console frantically. "Sir, these are human vessels, but they do not match any military configuration. Most appear to be civilian ships. Mining vessels, cargo haulers, even personal transports. Why would civilian ships approach a military fleet?" Vex wondered aloud. His question was answered immediately when one of the human vessels opened fire. But these were not energy weapons or plasma cannons. Chunks of metal and rock shot from what looked like modified mining equipment, accelerating to incredible velocities. The projectiles slammed into the nearest Krillian destroyer with devastating force. Shields failing on the storm chaser. Someone shouted, "Those are kinetic impactors, solid mass traveling at near light speed. Our energy shields are not designed to stop physical projectiles at those velocities." More human ships attacked from different angles. Missiles streaked through space, but they were the strangest missiles Vex had ever seen. Some appeared to be homemade, welded together from spare parts with crude guidance systems. Others looked like ancient human military hardware that should have been in museums. A few were nothing more than explosive charges strapped to chemical rockets that leaked fuel as they flew. "Return fire," Vex ordered. "Disable those vessels." The fleet's advanced weapons lit up the darkness of space with brilliant energy beams. Several human ships exploded immediately, their thin hulls offering no protection against military-grade weapons. But for every vessel destroyed, 3 more appeared. They came from everywhere, from hiding spots that should have been impossible. One emerged from inside a hollowed-out asteroid. Another had disguised itself as a damaged satellite. A third had somehow hidden in the shadow of one of the fleet's own ships. "These pilots have no training." His tactical officer exclaimed. They are not following any standard combat doctrine. No formations, no coordination, no command structure. They attack individually like a swarm of insects. Asterisk, but Vex watched the tactical display carefully and saw something his officer missed. The humans were coordinating, just not through military channels. When one human ship made an attack run, others would strike from different angles. When the fleet's weapons focused on one target, other vessels would attack from behind. It was like watching a pack of predators, each acting independently, but all working toward the same goal. A small human vessel shot past the bridge viewport. Vex caught a glimpse of its hull. Someone had painted the words Heaven's Hammer on the side, along with a crude picture of an angel holding a weapon. This was a personal ship, probably owned by a single family, and it was firing missiles at his flagship. Shield status. Vex demanded. Down to 40%, Commander. These kinetic weapons are tearing through our defenses. Every impact sends shockwaves through the shield matrix faster than the generators can compensate. Another alarm blared. Incoming vessel on collision course. Vex watched in horror as a large mining ship, its engines burning at maximum power, flew directly toward the destroyer Silver Wind. The destroyer's automated defenses tore into the mining ship, ripping it apart piece by piece, but the momentum carried the wreckage forward. Tons of metal debris slammed into the destroyer's hull at tremendous speed. The impact tore a massive hole in the ship's side. Atmosphere vented into space in a visible stream, and the destroyer's power systems destabilized. The Silver Wind is critical. They are evacuating. Sir, we are receiving another transmission from the humans. Vex expected a demand for surrender. Instead, what he heard made no sense. This is civilian rescue coordination. We see your damaged vessel. We are sending emergency response ships to assist with evacuation. Please do not fire on the medical transports. What? Vex could not believe what he was hearing. These humans were destroying his fleet, and now they wanted to save his people? The sensor officer highlighted several new contacts. Confirmed, sir. Multiple unarmed vessels approaching the Silver Wind. They have medical symbols on their hulls. Vex had to make a decision. His fleet was taking heavy damage. 3 ships were already disabled, and the rest were being overwhelmed by sheer numbers. These primitive weapons should not work, but they were devastating his forces. The humans were throwing everything at the mining equipment, construction tools, ancient missiles, even solid chunks of metal accelerated to impossible speeds. And now they were offering mercy. All ships, cease fire and prepare to withdraw, he ordered, his voice heavy with defeat. Broadcast our surrender on all frequencies. Commander, that mining vessel is still on approach vector. It shows no signs of stopping. Vex looked up at the main screen and saw a human ship decorated with faded paint and held together, with welded patches flying directly toward his bridge. The name on the hull read, Lucky Strike. He had time to think one final thought before impact. These humans fight like nothing we have ever encountered. Then the collision came, and everything went dark. When consciousness returned, Vex found himself lying on something soft. Pain radiated through his body, but it was manageable. Someone had treated his injuries with surprising skill. He opened his eyes slowly, adjusting to bright lights overhead. The room around him was clean and organized, filled with medical equipment that was both familiar and strange. A monitor displayed his vital signs in both Krillian symbols and human characters. The door slid open, and 2 humans entered. The first was a woman with short dark hair and kind eyes. She wore simple clothing, not a military uniform. The second was a man with weathered features and steady hands. He carried a data tablet and smiled when he saw Vex was awake. Commander Vex, the woman said gently. I am Dr. Lena Park. This is Tom Rodriguez. Welcome back. How are you feeling? Vex tried to sit up, his mind racing with questions. Where am I? Where is my crew? Are we prisoners? Tom shook his head. You are on Station Liberty, one of our orbital platforms. Your crew is safe. We rescued everyone we could from the damaged ships. Most are in medical facilities like this one, being treated for their injuries. He pulled up a chair and sat down casually. And no, you are not prisoners. You are guests. Uncomfortable guests maybe, but we will send you home once we clear up this situation. Vex stared at them, trying to understand. You destroyed my fleet. You killed my soldiers. How can you call us guests? Dr. Park's expression became sad. We disabled your ships, Commander. But we tried very hard not to kill anyone. Every vessel that was destroyed received multiple warnings to evacuate first. We used precision strikes to disable engines and weapon systems, not to destroy life support. The casualties from the battle numbered 71. Her voice cracked slightly. And every single death weighs on us. 71. Vex's fleet had carried over 4,000 personnel. If the humans had wanted to kill them all, they easily could have. I do not understand. You had us at your mercy. Why show restraint? Tom leaned forward. Because we are not monsters, Commander. We defend our home. Yes, but we do not murder people who are just following orders. Those other fleets that came before you? Their crews are alive too. Most of them are already on their way, back to their home worlds in their own repaired ships. Vex felt like his understanding of reality was crumbling. This is impossible. You have no military. Our scans showed this clearly. How did you defeat 4 battle fleets with mining equipment and cargo ships? Dr. Park and Tom exchanged a glance. Then she said, Commander, Earth does have militaries. Several of them, actually. Each nation maintains its own armed forces. But our militaries are designed for planetary combat, not space warfare. When your first fleet appeared 2 years ago, our governments were still arguing about jurisdiction, protocols, and whether to attempt communication or prepare for defense. And who attacked them? Vex asked. Who organized your defense? Tom smiled slightly. We did. Me, Dr. Park, and about 60,000 other people who decided we were not going to wait for permission to protect our families. Asterisk the truth unveiled Vex's scales shifted to a pale blue. The Krillian expression of complete bewilderment. You are civilians? Not soldiers? Dr. Lena Park nodded, pulling up a chair beside his medical bed. I am a microbiologist. I was working at a research station on Europa, studying potential life in the subsurface ocean, when the first alien fleet arrived. Tom here ran a mining operation on Titan, extracting methane and water ice. She smiled softly. Neither of us had any military training before all this started. Tom Rodriguez stood and walked to the window, gesturing at the Earth hanging in space beyond. When we saw those first ships approaching our home, we knew our governments would not respond in time. Too much bureaucracy, too many committees, too many people asking for permission instead of taking action. So we started making calls. Calls? Vex struggled to understand. What kind of calls? To other people like us, Lena explained. Tom contacted every mining operation in the outer system. I reached out to research stations and orbital facilities. We told them what we saw and asked if they wanted to help defend Earth. Within 3 days, thousands of people volunteered. Tom turned back to face Vex. We had no plan, no hierarchy, no command structure. Just people who agreed that someone needed to do something. Miners started modifying their drilling equipment into weapons. Engineers built missile launchers in their workshops during off hours. Ship pilots formed volunteer groups. Every person with access to space became a potential defender. Vex shook his head, trying to process this information. But the coordination we witnessed, the way your ships attacked showed intelligence, showed planning. You moved like a military force. We share information freely, Lena said, pulling up her data tablet. She showed him a complex network of communication channels, thousands of them interconnected. Anyone can access our network. When your fleet entered the system, 60,000 people saw you at the same time on their screens. Everyone made their own decision about what to do. Some attacked immediately. Others waited to assess your intentions. Some prepared rescue ships in case things went badly. No one gave orders? Vex asked incredulously. No one, Tom confirmed. That is not how we work. People share what they see, discuss possibilities, and then act according to their own judgment. During the battle with your fleet, some volunteers stayed back because they were not comfortable with aggressive tactics. Others went all in. Both choices were valid. Vex felt his secondary heart skip a beat. In every civilization he knew, military force was controlled by governments, structured through hierarchies, commanded from the top down. The idea that ordinary citizens could organize their own defense without authority, without orders, without command chains, was not just unusual, it was revolutionary. And terrifying. This should not work, he said quietly. How do you fight without commanders? Without military discipline? Without unified strategy? Lena smiled, but it was a sad smile. Our history is full of examples, Commander. Farmers who picked up tools and fought when invaders came. Citizens who formed militias when governments abandoned them. We have a saying, it is better to ask forgiveness than permission. When someone threatens our home, we do not wait for authorization. Tom walked back to Vex's bedside. We are not warriors by choice. I just wanted to mine ice and send money back to my family. Lena wanted to study microorganisms. The people who attacked your fleet include teachers, mechanics, grandparents, and college students. But we are all willing to fight when necessary. Asterisk, the other fleets, Vex said slowly, understanding dawning. You defeated them the same way? Yes, Lena confirmed. We disabled their ships, rescued their crews, gave them medical care, and sent them home with a message. Leave Earth alone. Asterisk. A chill ran through Vex's body. The galactic powers had no defense against this type of warfare. How could you fight an enemy where every citizen was a potential combatant? Where there was no command structure to disrupt, no central leadership to target, no government to negotiate with? What happens to me now? He asked. Tom stood and gestured toward the door. Now we show you something. Maybe then you will understand why we fight so hard to protect our world. Over the next 6 days, Vex received an education that shattered every assumption he had about warfare, civilization, and the nature of power itself. Lena and Tom took him to places throughout the Earth orbital network, introducing him to people who had fundamentally changed his understanding of what was possible. Their first stop was a fabrication facility built into a rotating asteroid near Mars. Vex expected to see a military factory with armed guards and strict security. Instead, he found what looked like a community workshop. Dozens of humans worked at individual stations, building missiles and railguns while listening to music and chatting casually. Colorful artwork covered the walls. Someone had set up a small garden in one corner, growing vegetables under artificial lights. A young man, barely into adulthood, approached them with enthusiasm. Dr. Park, Tom. Good to see you. He noticed Vex and extended his hand in the human greeting gesture. You must be Commander Vex. I am Jason Liu. Want to see what I have been working on? Jason led them to his workspace, which was cluttered with tools, components, and several half-assembled devices. He picked up a sleek missile, about 2 meters long, with hand-painted flames along the side. I call this the Dragonfly Mark III. Built it entirely from spare parts and a lot of trial and error. The guidance system came from an old weather satellite I bought at a salvage auction. The propulsion uses modified ion thrusters. The warhead is just conventional explosives, nothing fancy, but it works really well. You designed this yourself? Vex asked. Without training? Jason shrugged. I watched instructional videos on the network. Lots of people share their designs and improvements online. If I had a problem, I would post a question, and usually someone would answer within an hour. We all help each other learn. Vex looked around the workshop. Everyone worked independently, yet there was an obvious sense of community. People moved between stations, offering advice, borrowing tools, sharing meals. Who funds this operation? Who provides the materials? We do, Jason said simply. Everyone contributes what they can. Some people donate money. Others provide materials or tools. I work part-time as a programmer to pay for my components. It is all voluntary. The second location was a coordination hub on Station Liberty itself. Vex expected a military command center with officers monitoring screens and issuing orders. Instead, he found a comfortable room with soft furniture where a middle-aged woman named Carmen Osei sat at a console, drinking coffee and video chatting with her daughter. Just a moment, sweetie, Carmen said to the screen. Mama has a visitor. She turned to Vex with a warm smile. Commander Vex, I have heard so much about you. Please sit down. You coordinate defensive operations? Vex asked, taking the offered seat. Carmen laughed. Coordinate is too strong a word. I run a communication node for the Inner System volunteers. Mostly I make sure people have good information. If I see something important on the sensors, I let people know. They decide what to do about it. Vex watched her screens. Hundreds of communication channels scrolled past, showing conversations, sensor data, tactical discussions. It was organized chaos, yet somehow it functioned. How do you make strategic decisions? Who has authority to give orders? No one gives orders, dear, Carmen said gently. People share information and make their own choices. When your fleet arrived, I sent a message describing what I saw. Some people decided to intercept you immediately. Others wanted to wait and observe. Some prepared rescue ships. A few argued we should try diplomatic contact first. Everyone did what they thought was best. But what if people disagree? What if they want contradictory things? Then they do contradictory things, Carmen replied, as if it were obvious. We do not all have to agree. We just have to respect each other's choices. During your battle, some volunteers held back because they were uncomfortable with aggressive tactics. Others engaged fully. Both approaches were valid. The diversity of responses actually made us more effective because you could not predict what we would do next. On the third day, Tom took him to a repair facility where damaged ships from the battle were being restored. Vex saw his own vessels being carefully repaired by human technicians. A woman named Rachel Kimani, who worked as a shuttle mechanic before volunteering, showed him her work. We are replacing your damaged power cores with compatible units we fabricated, she explained, pointing to the Krillian destroyer she was working on. Your ship will be fully operational within 2 weeks. We are also upgrading some of your sensor systems because we noticed they had difficulty detecting our stealth positions. Vex stared at her. You are improving our ships? Why? Rachel paused, her wrench hovering in the air. Because it is the right thing to do. You came here because you were ordered to. Now you are going home with the truth. We want you to arrive safely. The fourth day brought perhaps the most surprising visit. Lena took him to a school on one of Jupiter's moons where young humans were learning. Vex watched students, who could not be more than 12 years old working on a complex project, assembling a functional sensor drone from classroom supplies and salvaged components. Their teacher, a patient woman named Aisha Mohammed, explained, "We teach problem-solving and practical skills. These students designed this drone as part of their engineering course. When the call went out for more sensor coverage during the defense operations, they volunteered their project to help." A girl with curious brown eyes looked up at Vex. "Are you really from another planet? That is amazing. Do you want to see how our gravitational sensor works? We calibrated it ourselves." Vex found himself sitting with children, learning about technology they had built with their own hands. On his world, on every world in the Galactic Assembly, education was specialized and controlled. Military personnel learned military skills in military academies. Engineers learned engineering in technical institutes. Citizens learned what they needed for their assigned roles. But humans taught their children everything, encouraged them to explore, to create, to solve problems independently. They were raising a generation of independent thinkers. On the 5th day, Tom took him to meet what humans called the Coordination Committee, the closest thing to leadership in their defense network. They met in a simple conference room aboard Station Liberty. Vex counted 23 people of various ages and backgrounds. A former naval officer sat beside a software developer. An asteroid miner shared coffee with a university professor of history. They greeted Vex warmly and invited him to join their discussion. "We know the Galactic Assembly is probably not happy with us," said the naval officer, whose name was Captain Maria Santos. Her eyes were kind, but hardened by experience. "But you need to understand something, Commander. We did not choose to become warriors. We chose to protect our home." A woman named Dr. Kenji Tanaka, the university professor, leaned forward. "Every person who fought against your fleet was a volunteer. No one was conscripted. No one was ordered. They fought because they believed it was necessary, because they wanted to protect the people and places they loved." Tom added, "We just want to live in peace. But if more fleets keep coming, we will keep defending ourselves. We have no choice." Vex pulled out his personal communication device. "I need to send a report to the Assembly. They need to know what I have discovered here. But I do not think they will like my conclusions." Lena looked at him intently. "What are your conclusions, Commander?" Vex thought carefully, knowing his next words would shape the future of human-galactic relations. "That humans are dangerous, but not because of your technology or your weapons. You are dangerous because of your ideas. You have proven that ordinary people can organize themselves, can defend themselves, can make their own decisions without governments or militaries or command hierarchies. That terrifies every power structure in the galaxy. Why?" Asked Captain Santos. Because if other species learn they can do what you have done, the entire galactic order will collapse, Vex said quietly. For thousands of years, governments have maintained control by convincing citizens they need protection, need leadership, need permission to act. You have shown that none of that is necessary. Vex sent his report through an encrypted communication drone, knowing it would reach the Galactic Assembly in approximately 3 weeks. He described everything he had witnessed: the volunteer networks, the decentralized decision-making, the ordinary citizens who became defenders without losing their humanity. He explained that humans were not conquered because they could not be conquered, not in any traditional sense. While waiting for the response, Vex was given freedom to explore and learn. His crew had been returned to him, and they too wandered through human facilities with growing amazement. The humans treated them not as enemies, but as guests who had simply misunderstood them. Situation. 20-2 days after sending his report, the response arrived. Vex read it in private, his scales darkening to almost black with anger and disappointment. Then he requested a meeting with Lena and Tom, in the observation lounge where he had first awakened. They arrived to find him staring at Earth, his posture radiating defeat. "The Assembly has made their decision," he said without turning around. "Earth is to be quarantined indefinitely. No human ships may leave the Sol system. All contact with your species is forbidden. You will be monitored by automated sensor arrays. If you attempt to expand beyond your system, you will be destroyed by orbital bombardment." Tom and Lena exchanged glances, but did not seem surprised. "We expected something like this," Lena said softly. "They are afraid," Vex continued, his voice bitter. "Not of your weapons, but of what you represent. The Assembly maintains power because citizens across the galaxy depend on their governments for protection, for order, for direction. You have proven that none of that dependence is necessary. You have shown that ordinary people can organize themselves, defend themselves, govern themselves." Tom walked to stand beside Vex at the window. "So they want to hide us away, like a dangerous idea, yes." Vex finally turned to face them. "But I cannot allow that to happen." "What do you mean?" Lena asked, confusion crossing her face. Vex pulled out his communication device and activated it with grim determination. The holographic display showed the Galactic Assembly chamber, but this time he was not sending a private report. He was broadcasting publicly on every channel, every frequency. Every member species, every citizen with access to the galactic network could see and hear what he was about to do. "Members of the Galactic Assembly," he began, his voice steady and strong despite his fear. "I am Commander Vex of the Krillian Empire, broadcasting from Earth orbit. I have spent the past week among humanity, learning about their culture, their methods, their reasons for fighting. And I must tell you that the quarantine decision is not based on security concerns. It is based on fear." Gasps and shouts erupted from the assembly chamber on his screen, but Vex continued with growing passion. "You fear what humans represent. You fear that if other species learn what I have learned, they will begin to question everything. They will ask why they need permission to defend their homes, why they cannot organize as humans do freely and independently, why they must wait for governments and militaries to protect them when they could protect themselves." He pulled up images from his visits to workshops. The volunteers, the rescued crews receiving medical care, the children building drones in school. "I have watched human children construct sensor equipment in their classrooms. I have met grandmothers who coordinate defensive networks from their living rooms. I have seen ordinary workers transform mining equipment into weapons and then transform it back when the danger passed. These people are not professional soldiers. They are citizens who refuse to be helpless." Vex's voice grew louder, more forceful. 4 fleets came to Earth, and humanity defeated all 4. But they did not slaughter us. They disabled our ships, rescued our crews, treated our wounded with their own medicine, and prepared to send us home safely. They fought only to defend, never to conquer. And you want to imprison them for this? You want to hide them away because they challenge your authority? The broadcast spread across the galaxy faster than anyone anticipated. Within hours, it became the most viewed message in galactic history. Citizens on dozens of worlds watched as Commander Vex presented the truth about humanity. They saw the workshops where ordinary people built defenses. They heard volunteers explain why they fought. They learned that defense did not require military hierarchies or government permission. The response was immediate and unprecedented. On Krillia Prime, Vex's homeworld, citizens began organizing their own volunteer networks, sharing information freely, and questioning why they needed government approval for everything. On the Vrothian colonies, people started asking why they could not defend themselves. Across the Talrix Confederation, the Heshon corporate territories, and dozens of other civilizations, the same questions arose like wildfire. Why do we need permission? Why can we not organize ourselves? What are our leaders afraid we might do? The assembly convened an emergency session, but this time their chambers were surrounded by protesters. Their own citizens demanded answers, demanded change, demanded the same freedoms that humans took for granted. 7 days after Vex's broadcast, the assembly voted again. This time, the decision was radically different. The quarantine order was rescinded. Instead, Earth was invited to join the Galactic Assembly as a full member with one unprecedented condition. Humanity must share their organizational methods, their approaches to citizen defense, their philosophy of individual empowerment with any species that requested it. Lena Park received the news in the same observation lounge where Commander Vex had made his galaxy-changing broadcast. She read the message 3 times, hardly believing the words. Then she laughed, a sound of relief, disbelief, and joy mixed together. "They want us to teach them," she said to Tom, who had just arrived. "The entire galaxy wants to learn how we do what we do." Tom grinned. "Can we even teach it?" "I mean, we just kind of figured it out as we went along." "That is exactly what we will teach them," Lena replied, her eyes shining. "That they do not need permission to solve problems. That ordinary people working together can achieve extraordinary things. That freedom includes the responsibility to act." 3 months later, Dr. Lena Park stood in the Galactic Assembly chamber as Earth's first official ambassador. The same room where Commander Vex had been judged now welcomed her. Representatives from 42 species watched as she took her place at the central podium. Billions more watched on screens across the galaxy, curious about the humans who had changed everything. "Members of the Assembly, citizens of the galaxy," she began, her voice calm but powerful. "I stand before you not as a military leader or government official, but as a scientist who became a defender because circumstances required it. My people never wanted to be warriors. We simply wanted to live in peace on our small blue world. But when threatened, we discovered something important. We did not need to wait for someone else to protect us. We could protect ourselves." She paused, looking around the vast chamber. "Some of you fear what this means. You worry that if citizens can organize independently, governments will lose control. But I ask you to consider a different possibility. What if governments become stronger when citizens are empowered? What if allowing people to take responsibility makes them more invested in their civilization's success, not less?" Commander Vex, sitting in the Krillian delegation, felt pride swell in his chest. This was why he had risked everything to give the galaxy this gift of truth. Lena continued, "We do not offer you weapons or military tactics. We offer you something far more valuable, the knowledge that your people are capable of more than you imagine. That given freedom, responsibility, and trust, ordinary citizens can achieve the extraordinary. This is humanity's gift to the galaxy." The chamber fell silent for a long moment. Then, one by one, delegates began to stand. It started with Commander Vex, then spread across the room like a wave. Soon every representative was on their feet, and the sound of approval in 42 different languages filled the ancient chamber. The vote was unanimous. Earth joined the Galactic Assembly, and a new era began. An era where citizens across the galaxy learned that they did not need permission to be extraordinary. Where ordinary people discovered they could organize, defend, create, and build without waiting for authority to grant them permission. And it all started because a group of miners, scientists, teachers, and mechanics looked at the stars and decided that their home was worth defending, with or without anyone's permission. The age of empowered citizens had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. Asterisk.